You are listening to Unified Through Chronic and Mental Illness with your hosts, Angie Roberts and Kimberly Murphy. Please be advised that some of the topics of this podcast can be triggering and sensitive in nature.
The CDC says there has been 1.93 million deaths worldwide and 90 million cases. Stephanie Murray reminded us on Twitter that on top of everything else happening, please remember that every number in COVID stats was a real person.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Unified. Today we're talking about COVID. It's our season 2 update. There's been a lot of changes, so let's get right to it.
Yeah, Michigan has had 2,700 new cases. We have an influx sometimes, and then we go down and we go up and we go down. But I really have been proud of our governor because she's been trying to keep things under control. And unlike some states, it's not as rampant as it could be, I think.
Cough, Florida. So I just want to ask you before I start ranting about my own state.
Right.
What types of things do you think your governor is doing that's making your state kind of like a leader that other states can look up to kind of like make things safer for people?
I mean, she just starts shutting stuff down. When numbers start going up, she just starts shutting stuff down. She's like, okay, you can no longer go in and eat. No longer, you can't go to the gym. You can't go to do this. You can't go to do that. You know, we got to wait until it passes. And then when the numbers go down, she opens it back up, and that's probably when the numbers go back up. But, she's trying because we do have to try to open it back up when our numbers go down. But,
right. Yeah, because we have a lot of small businesses that are depending on and people trying to work. And so, I mean,
right.
That all makes sense. Well, in my state, we have 20,000 new cases on the same day. And a lot of it, I believe, is because we're not doing anything. Sorry, Governor.
Right.
Our schools are open. Our bars are open. Our restaurants are open. Our businesses are open. The only thing that I can really truly say is that most businesses will not allow you to enter without a mask.
Right.
So that is something that we're doing down here. However, people are pretty much business as usual. Most people are working from home if they can. As far as because I do live in a tourist area as well, as far as seeing any changes in that regard either, there hasn't been any. There has still been all the planned events. I know that they're trying to do spacing and stuff. I have noticed that. But I mean, we have 20,000 new cases on Friday.
Right.
So we're doing something wrong. We're definitely doing something wrong.
Yeah, the beaches probably bring a lot of people, and it's hard to keep that under control. I don't know if they've closed the beaches or if they're still open.
The beaches are still open.
Are they?
Yeah, people are still going to hotels. But the really problematic ones are like the truck rallies and bike weeks and spring break, like all that stuff. And then that made a problem for us. But then when we got closer to like Christmas, there was all the Christmas events and then New Year's. Now, the mayor of my town where I live, and this is just one city, wanted to shut down New Year's Eve. And people were really upset about it. And he did, because we usually have this big celebration on Main Street with fireworks, and like they shut down the streets and they go bar to bar. You can get a bracelet. It's this fun thing.
Right,
but right, like it's everybody's shoulder to shoulder. So he did shut that down. I will give him credit for that. However, instead, because that was shut down, all the bars that are on the beach started having their own New Year's Eve parties, and everybody was going.
Yeah, so that just really didn't do anything.
No. And now we have all these new cases. Surprise, surprise. So this leads me into something that happened to me. I actually had to go get tested at urgent care because I started to feel really sick. And I'm really careful about everything. I'm always taking all the precautions I can. And I felt bad because A friend of mine came into town. I hadn't seen her in 5 years. And this one time I decided to
I
go in
can't believe
public.
she's telling this story. I can't believe it.
I'm going to fess up. This
She's
one
probably
time,
scared I'm going to tell it.
this one time, I beat you to it. This one time I decided to go out, right? I get sick. So I'm at urgent care and they do the rapid test and it's negative. So I'm happy about that. But then I'm still sick and I go back. And so they send me into the urgent care unit and I go up to this desk and the guy takes my temperature, the whole 9 yards. And he's like, do you have any COVID symptoms? I'm like, I'm here to get tested for COVID. He's like, do you have any of the symptoms? I'm like, yes, I'm here to get tested for COVID. Do you have muscle aches? I said, yes. He goes, oh, we all get that as we get older. He laughs and he sends me down the hall to urgent care. So I go. So I get up to the window and the lady's like, what are you doing here? And I said, I tell her what happened. And she's like, you're not even supposed to be in the building. You're supposed to call us from outside. There's no clearly marked signs that say any of this. The whole thing was mishandled. Now, had there been a bunch of people in there and had I been positive, you know what I mean? There was no clear signs that said, if this is what you're here for, a lot of people said to me, Kimberly, you're supposed to know this. You're supposed to know that you should call ahead and not go in. Maybe I should have known that. I didn't know that. The guy at the desk was supposed to tell me and he didn't do his job. So
right. No, I don't always think about that when it comes to going in to get help. I don't think, I should call first.
Yeah, like when you're sick and you don't feel good, you think you're doing the right thing. So I am waiting for my results. I won't get them back until probably Tuesday. But I thought that was worth mentioning because I hate to say this, but as many people that are not taking it seriously in the public because I think they're just maybe tired of it. I think some of the first responders are doing that too. And it's sad to say because they're not taking the precautions as well. That guy shouldn't have done that. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, I've never been tested for COVID, but last time on the podcast, we told y'all that Jacob, my son, who is 3, would not wear a mask, who is now proudly wearing his mask almost all the time. He really gets tired of it after about an hour or two. When he's 3 years old, I don't blame him.
That's really good.
Right. So I thought that was really good. So we were at the laundromat and he's wearing his mask like a good little boy and watching his TV. And he sees these people without a mask. And he not only points it out, he has to get up and point at them and say, Mommy, she needs a mask. Mommy, she needs a mask.
Which I'm like, is so adorable.
I'm like, shh. You're going to get your mom in a fight.
Well, I mean, part of the reason he's so adamant about it too is because he did get that little stomach bug, right? And then so he was
my
knows
son
what
got
it
a
means.
stomach bug. Yeah.
So now he knows what it means to be sick.
Right. Yeah. And I remind him of that and he will put his mask back on. So, and I think he was actually caring for her. She needs a mask, she doesn't need to get sick. He's very,
empathetic.
Caring, he is. He's very empathetic like that.
That's really sweet.
So
I wish more people were like Jacob.
I know, right? He is so funny.
There's a lot of people out there that don't even think that COVID is real, and I don't know how they could still believe that after 8 months. All the deaths, people on ventilators. I think everybody at this point knows somebody who's died or knows somebody who has a family member that's died. So I don't understand how people could not take it seriously.
A man from Twitter that I can't say his name, sorry sir, but it's spelled SANWO-OLU. He says COVID-19 is not a glamorous disease, neither is it a hoax. You need to follow the safety guidelines and safeguard your friends and loved ones. Otherwise, we need to be thinking about other people. I don't understand how they can't take it seriously either. I don't care. I mean, I do care, but I don't. I'm not going to get political, so I'm saying I don't care. I don't care if it's man-made or it was, whatever made
How it came to be.
how it came to be. COVID is real. COVID
Yep.
is very, very real. And I don't understand how you can look at numbers and not believe that it's not real, or see these people. You can go online and people are posting their loved ones who are dying, saying, telling you this is real. How can you look at those people and tell me it's not real?
I know it's really hard for me too, because I have some people that are kind of on both sides of things on my Facebook feed, friends of mine. And it's really hard for me to see some of those people say, it's a hoax, it's not real. Do you know anybody who's died of it? I haven't. Do you know anybody who's had it? I don't. And it's like, it's a slap in the face to people who are really suffering, people who have suffered so much loss. I mean, people that we know that are so heartbroken and are grieving. It's a slap in their face when they're on social media saying these things.
A lady in our group just lost her auntie, and then she turned around and lost her dad to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then, she is just heartbroken. She doesn't really know what to do. And we've had several in the group that have somebody's had COVID or somebody's died of COVID, or, and it's just really sad.
It's getting closer and closer to home, so it's getting harder to deny. And now also with, COVID having been around for 8 months, we're seeing too that even though, they're like, oh, some people say, oh, it's like the flu, you get over it and you're fine, or you build immunity to it. And that's not necessarily true, because like we talked about in the last podcast in season 1, we talked about the long haulers who are still having serious issues. So if you haven't heard that, go back and listen, because it's really informative. But somebody, right, who had COVID back when it started, and he's still having some issues?
You're probably right. A couple months after it started, probably like 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he still has issues. He's always been a very energetic, athletic guy. And he said he has no energy. Like, he'll just be going, and it's like kind of like chronic fatigue syndrome. That's it. He's tired and he just needs to sleep. And he says he still spikes a fever every now and then.
It sounds like autoimmune disease. It really does.
I know. And you never know.
That brings up another point, because a lot of autoimmune diseases are actually, one of the ways that they say you can get them, because they don't know for sure, is an illness can actually like activate it. Lupus is one of the diseases where they say that, an illness like COVID could actually activate it. So I wonder, I do wonder if it's turning into this sort of autoimmune issue in some people.
It definitely, it definitely could be. We're going to be finding out more and more about it. We're 8 months past or so. So I read a story on Twitter. Sorry, I had to think about which media platform I was on. That this 31-year-old, he was highly active. He's a biker, mountain climber, all of those things. And he got COVID. And now he says he feels like an 80-year-old man, that there's a little pond outside and he can barely walk around at one time.
Oh, no.
And he's been that way for about 6 months. I think it was 6 months.
And you have to wonder, like, if that's the permanent state of being, like he's has this long-term thing now. We don't know if it'll stay or not, if he'll ever recover. How is that going to shorten his lifespan? Is he ever going to enjoy the things he wants to do again? It's really scary.
It is. The unknown is so scary.
Like people are just like, what if I get COVID and I have to go on a ventilator? Or what if I don't survive it? But a lot of people aren't saying, what if in 2 years from now, I can't walk around a pond? I'm like an 80-year-old and I'm only 30. Like, people are not thinking about the long term of this.
It's not even 2 years. Like, it's, it's almost like you get COVID and you never recover from it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
And let's remember that you can't cure a virus. We do have vaccines. We do have vaccines coming out. They're probably going to get better with time. You and I have a friend who actually just got vaccinated, and her experience wasn't so bad. She said that the first day it didn't hurt at all. I think the second day it got really sore. The third day it was the worst, she said, but she didn't have any side effects. So we know that the side effects are pain in the injection site, and she had that, but also like headache, fatigue, joint and muscle pain.
I do have a friend that had the shot, the vaccine,
Mm-hmm.
and she has those
Yeah.
effects. But what's worse, having these effects for a couple of days or getting COVID? I'm
I'll take the side effects all day long. Are you kidding me?
right.
I even
yeah.
heard some woman say that it felt like somebody hit her with a baseball bat in her arm.
in their arm, right?
But I mean, let's think about this. Do you want to feel like that, or do you want to be on a ventilator? Do you want to feel like that, or do you want to lose your life? Do you want to feel like that, or do you want to be an 80-year-old who can't walk around a pond in a year?
Right.
What kind of life do you want to have?
Dr. Mike Ryan from the WHO organization says we are trying to stop a deadly disease, COVID-19. Downplaying it or creating conspiracy theories isn't helpful. Social media is a massive tool to archive so much in our society. Let's not let the haters destroy the platform for it.
If you're going to be selfish, and I hate to say it this way, if you're going to be selfish, put the mask on for your own protection, for your own well-being. Do what you're supposed to do for you. If you can't do it for everyone else, at least do it for yourself. Think about these things. It's no joke.
Right. Think about your family.
Right.
Think about what you could be bringing home to your family. Or, I mean, is everybody in your household, like, is their immunizations, like, not their immunization shots, but their immune system all up to par? Do they have any issues? Are you bringing it home to someone with diabetes or someone with high blood pressure or someone with heart disease or someone, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You may not be touched by it, but you can infect somebody with it.
You could be a carrier. You could go out into the stores, touch a bunch of stuff. How many people touch a bunch of stuff when they go grocery shopping? Like, we can't help it. We pick something up, we look at it, we put it back down.
Right.
So how many people?
I'm trying so hard not to do this.
Right. Me too. And well, I don't even go to the stores, but think about this too. You're getting it delivered to your house. How many people picked it up though and looked at it and put it back down? So,
and then the person shopping, and then the person bringing it to you, putting it in the bag.
Yeah, it's all being handled still. So, okay, so you could get there's carriers. You can be a carrier of COVID and not even have any symptoms and do all this stuff and be exposed and go home. And next thing you know, like I have a child with diabetes. Next thing I know, they're having issues. I mean, it's that easy. You have to be really careful. You have to be really careful. I know somebody who actually wipes down all his groceries, and I'm going to be honest, I don't do that. And I'm thinking maybe I should.
I don't do that either.
I'm thinking maybe he's onto something here.
I probably should either, but I can't find that many disinfectant wipes around here.
I know. Like, okay, Clorox, anybody from Clorox? This is like, you guys would be making a bundle right now. What are you doing over there?
For real.
For real. Like, do they want to make money or not? But yeah, I mean,
they're probably like, well, we are doing this for the hospitals.
Right.
To save lives.
Well, I mean, I just think that people are not taking it seriously enough. And now the vaccine's coming out. Okay, so let's pretend that most people get the vaccine. I have the feeling, though, that the people who don't wear the masks are also not going to get the vaccine. But anyways, let's say that they do. There's still a risk because, you can't kill a virus. It's just like the flu. It doesn't necessarily say, okay, you're not going to get it. It just makes the symptoms less severe, gives you less of a chance to get it. So keeping all of that in mind, we have this vaccine, and then we find out this new information.
Yeah, Africa, the UK, and Japan have all got different strands, the variants of the strands that have come out. Now, they say that these are a lot alike, and that the only thing is that it's more contagious. It's not worse when you get the illness, but it is more contagious, and
Which is
they're not
scary.
right. It is. It
And I'm
really
sure they don't know
is.
why yet, because I mean, this is all new. So,
Right. Right.
okay, so
Right.
as a Floridian, I'm sitting here hearing you say that, and I'm thinking, okay, so we just had New Year's Eve, and we're getting 20,000 new cases a day now because, we just decided that our partying was more important. And the vaccine is slowly rolling out. Now this new variant is coming that's more contagious to people who are already not taking it seriously. I hope people are listening to this because the numbers are going to be astronomical in the United States. I mean, other countries are like, you have to actually make an appointment to go to the store.
Japan shuts down. It
Mm-hmm.
shuts it down.
Right. Like they take it seriously. And here in the United States, they're leaving it up to us. Unless, of course, the governor says shut down the restaurants. There are things that the government can do, but they're not taking away our freedom to leave our homes. And a lot of
Well,
people would rebel against that if they did, I think.
and oh, yes, and they do. Let me tell you about Michigan.
Okay.
Let me tell you about Michigan. They were going to kidnap our governor. They were going to kidnap our governor because of how she is treating the COVID-19.
That's
Because
insane.
she refuses to be one of these governors that keeps everything open and keeps everybody sick and all this stuff. And people they do not like that. They have been outside on the in front of the state building protesting and protesting and protesting. And then they found out about a plan to actually kidnap her. And there was some other people also that they were going to kidnap and take her out in the middle of the lake.
That's
I'm
crazy.
not sure what they didn't say what they were going to do to her after they took her out in the middle of the lake, but I don't know. That's
we can all
scary
imagine.
enough.
That is crazy. And this is all because we're trying to contain. This is a pandemic. I don't think people realize. I mean, and if you look at the numbers, we are the worst. The United States is the worst. We are the worst. Our numbers are climbing the fastest. We are being the most negligent. I kind of want to say we're like the spoiled brats on the playground throwing a tantrum.
We are the spoiled brats on the playground throwing a tantrum.
Yeah. And we're paying for it. And that's the sad part. We are paying for it with our lives. And so, we're throwing our tantrums. And those of us who are throwing our tantrums are privileged. Let's just face it, because, we have a choice. Meanwhile, there is a real economical problem in our country that I don't even need to bring it up because we all know what I'm talking about. But there are people who are of certain categories, minorities in our country that are suffering the most. If you have insurance, you're going to be the first one on a ventilator. If you can't afford it, guess what?
And I just have to say, because I am part Native American, so I am just going to put this out there, that Native Americans are dying at twice the rate as they say as white people. And I'm guessing, I don't know why they say that. So please don't have any hate mail because
don't shoot the messenger.
Right. That's just what they say, and I'm pretty sure that's because that's what they call us. But
that's what they identify as.
The issue is the around Montana, the indigenous people are trying to use the face mask and everything. The thing is they're not covered by the government so much, so they have to go out to federal hospitals instead of state hospitals, or there are hospitals that are just could be right there.
And the thing with them too, in Montana,
are overloaded. Yeah.
Didn't you say in Montana it's like 11 times the rate? Like it's much higher there.
In Montana, it says it's 11 times
that's
higher
awful.
than the white residents. It is, and it's because the surrounding, right where the tribe lines are, the surrounding people from Montana are not really doing anything like they're supposed to do, and so they're pushing the COVID, on into the tribes,
right?
And
And then they don't have the luxury of going to the local hospitals. And it's no different with like, in any city where it's economically hard. Who's going to get the ventilator, really? Let's just face it.
It's true. It is true.
Mm-hmm.
You see it time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
Just to, if you have great insurance, and if you have great insurance, you're at the top head of the table. That's just how it is.
And you're privileged and good for you, and you should feel lucky, and you should be one of the people that does everything they can to make sure that people who don't have it don't catch the virus, so don't spread it. Prevention,
Right.
This is why preventative medicine is so important in our country, and that's a completely different topic, but preventative medicine is so important, and that's basically what they're trying to do right now. They're trying to say, hey, let's not get the virus, let's not spread it, because once we get to that point, people will die, and it won't necessarily just be because they caught the virus. It'll be because they can't afford to get treated, or the hospitals are overrun and only the privileged are getting treated in the hospitals, or they're getting turned away, or there's all these reasons.
Right. Like what do you think really happens to a homeless person that has COVID?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think like that, if you opened your mind, I mean, not your mind, but if people open their minds
Mm-hmm.
and really think about other people and their economic situations and people that are out on the street, I mean,
I can tell you right now, they're going to walk, if they live in Florida, they're going to walk into an urgent care, they're going to get tested. Now,
Right.
How do you let that person know who's homeless that they've tested positive? If they test positive, and there is a way to let them know, if they do a rapid test and it's positive, they're going to send them out. They're not going to be allowed in the shelters because that's too dangerous. They're probably not going to admit them because there's other people that need the beds. If they do admit them, they're going to be turned out in 24 hours.
Right. As soon as they can. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. They're going to patch it up like a Band-Aid and tell them to wear a mask and send them out. We're talking about homeless people, and that's a very specific thing. And we're talking about, the Native Americans, and that's a very specific thing. But when you add all these things together, the tourists that come in and out of Florida, the tourists that go in and out of California, the people that don't believe in the vaccine, the people that don't believe wearing masks, you put all this stuff together, and that's why our numbers are the highest.
California is bad right now too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I do know that they're bad, and I know it's being talked about nationwide. So
as far as I know, the hot spots for a long time, the hot spots have been California, Texas, and Florida, and of course, in the beginning, it was New York.
Right? Yeah, that was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah, I hit them really hard. Did you see that movie 2020? I just have to ask you.
No, I haven't.
On Netflix?
No, should I watch it?
Yes.
Is it funny?
It's funny. It's actually made to be funny. It's a comedy.
Oh, okay.
But they talk a lot about this stuff, but of course they spoof it. So that's why I asked you. But yeah, anybody wants to have a little laugh, a little comedy relief about this whole situation, 2020 on Netflix is definitely worth checking out.
Ruby Engel from Twitter says, long COVID shrinks your world far more than you might imagine. If a friend wants to chat with me for half an hour, I often have to say, I can't. I don't have the cognitive energy today. Your support network is compromised.
So, there's a lot of people who don't believe that it's that big of a deal, or it's like a flu, they can get over it. They know that people are on ventilators, but they're like, oh, those are people over 65 who have pre-existing conditions. But it's not true. There are a lot of younger people who are going on ventilators. People who have diabetes will go on ventilators. And I've heard that ventilators, we talked about this in the last season, but
right.
I've heard that ventilators are really scary.
They are really scary. They can, while you're on the ventilator, they say that you have nightmares, and then they come out and have PTSD from being on the ventilator. It's just a really scary thing to be on a ventilator, and I don't ever want to be on one.
Right. Me neither. Like my mom, she said, if I get COVID and I have to be on a ventilator, Kimberly, just let me die. Like she's serious too. Like she does not even want to be on the ventilator. My son is really afraid to go on the ventilator. He has diabetes, and he said to me, I'm reading about it and the PTSD and the nightmares, because they can only sedate you so much. They have to sedate you, but
Right.
they can only sedate you so much. So you're kind of aware of what's going on, but you're also like in this dream state, and it's very traumatic. I want to hear stories. I hate to say this, it sounds grim, but I want to hear more from people who've been on the ventilator and have survived, and to tell us more about this, because I think if people were more aware of how serious this is and where they could end up, they might not be so inclined to like not wear a mask. The mask might not seem
Right.
like such a big deal at that point, because it's such a small thing to just put a mask on. I mean, like nobody gets upset if the police say you have to wear your seatbelt. Like that makes sense to moms, right? It makes sense. You got to put your seatbelt on. It's safe for you. It's safe for your children.
Right.
It's not taking away your freedom to be forced to wear something that's going to be for your benefit, for other people's benefit. What's the difference?
It really isn't.
Exactly.
There is no difference, really.
Right. I feel the same way. It's not taking away your freedom. It's just a safety measure. So those who say it's infringing on your rights and taking away your freedom, that you can't decide whether you wear a mask or not, because they're afraid of mandates. They don't want to be forced to wear a mask. Well, we all voted and decided that seatbelts were important. So
Right.
what's the
We
difference?
all did do that.
Yes, we did. So, I mean, I think it's just the way you look at it. And I know this is new for people, and we're all trying to wrap our heads around it. I'll tell you though, Angie, when I went for that one drink and then I got sick, I felt so guilty. I still am
I
like,
know you do.
I'm like, of course, the one time I would go out, I'm thinking that this is what's going to happen. Everyone in my house is going to get COVID. And then, I'm hoping that's not true, but that's all it takes. It's like pregnancy.
Right. It just takes one time.
One time, guys, if you don't wear protection, one time. What a great analogy.
Right. So I was reading an article in Johns Hopkins Medicine, and they were saying that PTSD is common among the ICU survivors, especially the ones that have ventilators. So
Right.
that's really scary. PTSD. I have PTSD, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's not something you want.
Right.
So,
and I'm thinking like they're saying PTSD because it's an isolated event, but I'm sure it's going to be something that becomes chronic for them.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, they really don't go on to explain why. So, that might be something people look up. I'm not going to say why I think, but
well, I mean, they know that like they sedate them and they go through this delirium, and
yeah, they do go through delirium.
Yeah, and WebMD says they get delirium, which is like the scariest part. I mean, being on a machine, it has to be terrifying. But the delirium, I don't know. It's not just nightmares.
Yeah.
It's not just nightmares. And then they also say that they estimate that only 40 to 50% or 40 to 50% of patients die after going on ventilation, regardless. So you're kind of like gambling at that point.
You really are.
It's not like these ventilators are just going to save you. So
no, that's been proven.
Right. So again, prevention is really, really, really important.
I know you all think we're just preaching prevention, but we are.
But we are. Yes, we are.
But we are. But we really do care about people.
I mean, guys, think of it this way, okay? When New York started getting when the reports started coming out of New York, and New York was like the first hot spot, WebMD was saying that, as many as 80% of people infected with the virus were dying after being on ventilation. 80%.
Right.
Those were COVID-19 specific patients. So that 40 to 50% just shot up to 80. once you get it, you're really bargaining. You could have mild symptoms, but you could find yourself in this really horrible situation. And do you really want to gamble with that? And do you want to be the person that gives it to somebody else and has them gamble with that?
Right. I read about a man that said that he just woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't breathe. He had already been diagnosed with COVID, but he was doing the home
quarantine.
What is it? Yeah, he was doing the home quarantine. So he woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't breathe, and he had to go, and then ended up on a ventilator. So it's just not worth it to me.
And we don't know enough about it. So
we really don't.
People who are on the internet and making their declarations of this or that, including us, we only have the information we have. There's a lot more that we don't know, and we're learning as we go. So I just feel like it's better to treat it like, don't live in fear, but be really vigilant about keeping yourself safe. Do everything you why wouldn't you do everything you possibly can? Why wouldn't you? Because all it takes, like we said, is one mishap and you could be putting your whole family in danger. Why would you want to do that? So, with all of that in mind, Angie, what is the mantra for this week?
When I is replaced by we, even illness becomes wellness.
So true. We have to take care of each other.
We really do. Mm-hmm. We have to watch out for each other and be compassionate.
Exactly. And with that thought in mind, remember that we are stronger together, and we hope that you learned something from this episode. I know that I did in talking about it.
And talking about it and researching it. And
right.
So much, yeah.
Yes, knowledge is power. And we hope to see you next time. Take care, guys.
Mask up. Peace out, guys.
Unified through chronic and mental illness can be found at anchor.fm/unified. There you can find all social media links as well as other ways to listen.